Yes. All right. Well, thanks everyone for being here today. Thank you, Catherine and Ben. We see you on Zoom, so thank you for being here as well. Linnea is sorry that she cannot be here today. And hopefully you all got, and if you didn't, I think I passed it around, agenda and some of the attachments. They were just sent out this morning. But we had a great leadership team meeting last week, and we have decided that moving forward, this is the way we want the meetings and the agenda to be structured. We'll do a quick little check-in, go around, ask a question, especially as we're still all getting to know each other a little bit more. Then devote the first 15 to 20 minutes of what we're calling the burning issues. So things in the arts and cultural sphere that may be going on, current issues, things that you know or have heard of or involved with that you want to bring to the commission so we are all aware of it. I know at least at this first juncture, there are a few different things going on. We haven't talked about whether or not the commission will be making statements as a whole or anything like that, but that's certainly something we can address as things come up. So more of a FYI at this point. And then we'll form working groups later and do some breakout discussion and then close out the meeting and move to next steps. But we'll kind of try to keep that format moving forward with the burning issues and then having some time set aside for work groups as well. And then doing that because we only have an hour together and that will go by quickly. So any questions about the structure of the agenda before we hop right into it? Okay. All right, then for our quick lightning round of questions, we'll go around. Please introduce, well, we all have our signs now, so we don't have to. That's great. Thank you for taking that 5 seconds away from
It would help to know
it's great questions.
who they're representing. Not all the cards have that.
Only, if I'm correct, only the organization reps have their organization listed. So that's myself, Eli, Courtney, and Linnea. Everyone else is either artist or resident, right? So yes, you can, for those that just say commissioner, you can say whether you are representing a resident or an artist. And so we'll start with the question of what is your favorite cultural institution? Please only pick one. It can be anywhere in the world, but please only pick one. So I will start with mine, which is the Peabody Essex Museum in Salem. I remember going there when it was still a tiny, tiny maritime museum before it is the big museum it is today. But I always loved that hall with all the figureheads from the ships on it. That's one of my favorite pieces from that collection. And I grew up about 5 minutes from there. So lots of field trips spent going to that museum over the years. So turn over to you.
All right. I'm a resident, and I would say the Met is my favorite, even though they kind of all over the news for a minute a few weeks ago, but I love the sculpture garden in there. I just, every time I go, I think it's just amazing to see kind of art history and all of it just laid out. So
I love a weirdo niche museum. So my mind changes all the time on my favorite. I just recently went to the Public Health Museum in Tewksbury, which is on the grounds of the Tewksbury State Hospital, and it was fascinating in terms of culture and all the different things that have gone on there.
Well, they say that Portsmouth worships at Prescott Park, and that's where I worship. I would say that, you know, my favorite is the Arts Festival.
I'm Karen Rosania, representing artists, and I'm not biased because Emma raised the question, but I'd have to say the Portsmouth Historic Society. And the reason why I would say the walks, which I've done several, and especially somebody that's still sort of new to Portsmouth, only been here for 3 years. Love the movies, love the exhibits, the gingerbread house, the found objects. I think everything's really been incredibly well done. So, and I've learned a lot. Yeah. It's my
I'm
commercial.
gonna change my answer because I thought about it and I was gonna say Mass MoCA, but I'm gonna change it to the Museum of Science because I grew up going there and I love it. I would still go there in a heartbeat today.
Okay, Ken Goldman, Vice Chair, photographer. I'm gonna leave Portsmouth. I think I mentioned before, I grew up in the New York metropolitan area, and when I was a kid, I loved nothing better than going to the American Museum of Natural History and the Hayden Planetarium. Friends and I used to Long Island Railroad in every year around Christmas and go there, and it's always just made a big impression on me.
Robin Albert, resident. I did grow up really close to New York, but, so there's lots, but I'm gonna keep it home and say the music hall. I just seem to be really attached at the hip to the music hall, whether it's volunteering or deciding at 10 minutes to 7 that I'm gonna go see a great movie. It's just kind of my second home.
Genevieve, I'm an artist. I'm also a resident. I also represent New Hampshire Theater Project, but I think I'm officially an artist. Boy, I had a hard time. I mean, New Hampshire Theater Project is obviously, I've spent almost 40 years of my life building that program. So, but I think locally I'd have to agree with Robin, the music hall, because I was on the board way back when it was dying, and to see what it has become and what a cultural engine it is for the city is just makes me very proud.
I would love to say that it's a place in Portsmouth. I love all the institutions in Portsmouth. I should
Love
say.
them all equally,
I
right?
do, yes. But my favorite is the Folger Shakespeare Library in Washington, DC. And I spent tons of time there in college. And what I really love about them is their musical programming, because they do all these wonderful concerts of Baroque and early medieval music, which is just very fascinating.
Want to share, Sean?
Sure. I'm gonna say what's top of mind, which is Players Ring. The place
Mhm.
just is amazing how
Mhm.
you can just go in there and be so close. And we've been to a couple of shows recently, including this weekend. So Players Ring right now for me, top of mind.
Mm,
Awesome.
nice.
Catherine, would you like to share with us?
Sure. Probably my all-time favorite is the Picasso Museum in Paris, oddly enough. I was an art history major in college, and I was never a Picasso fan until I went to this museum. And it's actually just like this large home. And all of Picasso's work, you see it from the impetus all the way through his whole career. And there is one room where he traded with other artists. And I just felt that was such a great, amazing thing where you see a whole life of someone as an artist, and then you see, the community of friends that they had that were in that at that era, at that time. And I just always thought that was a really cool thing and seeing how in different communities I've lived in, how the artists kind of all collect together and support one another. I just always loved that.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing, Catherine. All right, so we will move to burning issues. First, though, Jeffrey, since you are here, are you okay taking minutes at this point?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
But
So
we
Ken,
didn't,
you are
we
relieved of
didn't
your-
approve the minutes last month.
No.
We have
did
two sets of minutes to approve.
Were those? I don't think we sent those around. Do you have them?
I sent them last week. Right?
Yeah.
Oh, you sent them last
Yeah.
week? Sorry.
That's all right.
Thanks.
Did not
Okay.
bring them today. So
Okay.
I don't know if anyone has any. I'll leave it to Jeffrey.
There was a question as to whether we needed to approve them or not, as this body setting our own rules, but.
The answer to that is yes. You do need to approve them, but you don't have to approve them on a certain timeline.
Okay.
So there's no deadline for that.
Can I make the motion to approve the minutes as presented by email last week for last meeting?
Second.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I just request that my name gets spelled right because it gets misspelled all the time. There's only one L.
Okay,
That's it. Otherwise.
Friendly amendment.
Yes.
Amendment for
Approve
Genevieve
the
Spain.
amendment, yes. All in favor?
Aye.
That was unanimous. Thank you. All right, I will make sure we add that into the agenda for the minutes. Thank you. I had forgotten those. Thanks. All right, so we'll move into the burning issues. First up, I have Kate and Karen to do an update on home occupation.
Sure. Thanks for the time on the agenda. So I think everybody's aware that one of the important areas of input that we received from the community back in the initial cultural plan, as well as the most recent one, is to have more options for artists where they can work, live, including being able to teach small art classes out of their home studios. So that's that's documented in both plans, which is great. And I'm also very pleased, based on Kate's leadership and the really terrific support coming from city council, as well as the land use committee and the planning board committee. I think there's been a lot of terrific thought and insight and gathering of public input to shape what could be and hopefully will be the new modifications to home occupation. Right now, I think as everybody is aware, you cannot have people come into your home studio for art lessons in the city of Portsmouth. So we're really hoping that will change. And as an artist, that's one of the reasons I moved here. I would love to be able to offer that once it's approved, if it's approved, which we hope. So, so I just think a couple of key dates to be aware of and where things are in the process. So this has made its way through the various committees, as I just referenced, and tonight is the first reading in front of City Council. And I think as everybody knows, there's not a public hearing associated with tonight, but there is opportunity for public input. And it's the typical 45 minutes in the beginning of the agenda. I do plan on being there. I would offer up if anybody else is able to come tonight, as well as, I know this is going out publicly, anybody else that would like to make comment, that would be most welcome. And the second key date that everybody should be aware of is on June 17th is the second reading, and that will include a hearing. If I'm getting that date right.
I think it's actually sooner. It should be June 3rd.
Okay, when I looked at the packet, and Counselor Cook, you would know better than I, but when I looked at the packet yesterday, it's stating June 17th as a
Might
date.
just be assuming that we've got too much on the agenda.
Ah.
3rd.
Okay,
Is that right?
June 3rd is budget adoption, maybe.
Yes, it is. So they might have just moved the second, but
okay,
I can ask about that.
Okay,
Because I don't think it's enough that it's going to take a lot of time, but
okay,
Can you make sure to send me the correction?
yes.
yeah. And knowing that, again, that one is a public hearing associated with home occupation, that would be very important to have additional input, and that would be welcomed. So those are the two dates. I guess the question I have, and Emma, you referenced this in the beginning, are there things that we should vote on? I'll give you my perspective, and then I welcome anybody else's perspective. But since this has come up through the community and it's documented in the cultural plan, and our job is to execute on the cultural plan, it seems to me that this is something that we probably should take a vote on. That's my opinion. I'm open to other feedback on that. So I'll just leave it at that. Yeah, so, and Counselor Cook, are there other things that you wanted to?
Yes,
provide?
I think the thing that I would highlight is that we got a lot of support in the end from the planning board. And I want to say that the chair of the planning board, Rick Chelman, did a fantastic job
Yes.
trying to make sure that we got it right. So there was a little bit of a delay this spring so that they could add in a second section that allowed for conditional use permits for up to 6 students.
Well, you probably explain the two levels.
Yes, yeah, there are 2 levels now. I think that's really, really critical.
Yes, it is, absolutely.
Up to 2 students, and that's just allowed by right
Mhm.
in the zone. And then up to 6, with a conditional use permit, which changed the process a little. So you don't go to the zoning board anymore. You would come before the planning board.
Yeah.
And that's also key, because when you go to the zoning board, you have to ask for a variance. You're usually asking for something that requires a legal definition to allow it. Whereas the planning board is thinking more about, is there enough parking on this site? Does it make sense? And you're not looking for a hardship if you're coming before the planning board. So a conditional use permit should be an easier process,
Mhm.
frankly, for artists too. So.
So thank you so much for all your support. Yeah.
Just a question, are we voting on making a recommendation as a body?
And I'm putting that open for
Yeah.
discussion. So what?
That's a question I would have for you, Sean and Kate, is what action can we as a commission take, whether it's in the form of a written statement or public statement? And what is the process other commissions have gone through to do a collective action like that? What would that look like? Or is it
So
open?
my thought is that this group, if you want to support, if you want to put a memo or a letter of support,
Mhm.
I've seen that done before, come out of the
Mhm.
EDC. I think that's the way it's documented.
Mhm.
And that, I think that matters to the counselors who are going to review it and hear
Mhm.
from. That you all have looked at
Mhm.
it, that you've made the point about it's gone through 2 cultural plans and
Yeah,
survived, and
yeah.
here we are to this place of decision, and you have the opportunity to say what you want to say in written form.
And we did have a letter of support, that previous members of the Arts and Culture, the Cultural Plan Subcommittee, the Arts and Nonprofits Committee, as well as many members of this commission individually did sign. And that did go to Planning Board, and that has been documented. So I don't know if that, we should use that same document. Should there be another one generated? And so what do you?
I
thoughts
think
on
that it makes sense for tonight, if you want to submit something, because it's a close schedule. If you want to share anything, that would be something that would be easy to share with the council. And one of the things that you can always do that people don't realize you can do is when you come up for public comment, you can just bring up copies of something to share with the council. So just remember there are 9 counselors, and there's the city manager and legal office and the clerk. So try to bring 12 copies. That's all I'd say. But yes, you can always bring something up, and it wouldn't hurt. It never
Okay.
hurts to do that. Since it's just first reading tonight, there is no public hearing, but you speak during public comment,
Yeah.
like Karen said,
Mhm.
and you can bring things up during public comment. But then we need to make sure that when we have the second reading and public hearing, that we do have some speakers in favor of it if they favor this change. So
Mhm.
I would like to think that everyone here does.
Mhm.
But I think that that's critical, because you just never know when you're going to have somebody come who just doesn't want to allow things. And so you always end up with 1 or 2. And if that's the only speaker, that's never very positive. Although I will say that the council voted unanimously to request this change from the planning board. So know that there's already kind of a favorable view
Mhm.
of making this change.
So just from a logistics standpoint, should I just quickly generate a letter this afternoon and circulate it and just get everybody's eyes on it quickly? Another option is I can go with the letter that I sent out previously and just add the new language for home occupation 1 and home occupation 2. And if everybody's okay with that, I can just add that to the letter everybody's seen. I'm just thinking just from a timing standpoint, because we only have, a good several hours here, but I'm happy to generate something new.
But if I'm
And
hearing
get
you
it around.
correctly, it doesn't have to be in tonight. The letter that, we can compose the letter. Is there a process by which we can approve the letter as a committee between now and the 3rd or the 17th, whichever it turns out to be? And then present it, or maybe do we, because what we're looking for is a formal endorsement of the letter by the group.
I would strongly suggest, if you're going to, because you can't do anything that creates a chain of communication on email between now and your next meeting. If you decide you're going to do it, just decide that you are and that you support whatever language that you choose. And then today, if you're going to do that.
Can
then-
we vote to authorize Karen to write a letter? And therefore, that makes her letter official?
Right, makes it on
So-
behalf of the commission because you voted to.
Yeah, there's enough of us here. We have a quorum to make that vote.
You can
Would
take
it
the
make
vote.
sense just to read the letter as you presented it? Read it into the record right now?
The letter that everybody signed, or most people signed individually to the planning board, that was like a couple weeks
It's more-
ago.
It's more time on this item, but it makes
But-
it. official.
Yeah,
Would
I'm
we
happy to
also
read
like
that.
submit it as an reference it in the minutes for this meeting and include it as an attachment? So we don't have to read the whole thing? Or what do we?
Yeah,
Yes,
It can
How
be
can
part of
it-
the minutes.
okay.
Okay, so the minutes are, okay, I'll make a motion that we, as a committee, authorize Karen to write a letter on our behalf in support of the ordinance change, or whatever. Correct
Is
word.
it an ordinance, Kate?
It is, it's an ordinance change. So it's actually a change to our zoning ordinance.
Okay, so the motion is to authorize Karen to write a letter on our behalf in support of the change to the zoning ordinance.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Unanimous.
Okay, so we
You're
use the
authorized.
exact
Karen.
language. Thank you. Okay. Thank you.
Thank
Sorg.
you.
Thank you.
Yes. And please, it sounds like too, if there's anyone interested in becoming more involved or showing up or being a part of the discussion, reach out to Karen to facilitate any
Yep.
of that as well.
7 o'clock tonight.
Yep.
And it looks like the home occupation is right immediately following the public comment period. So it should be on the front end of the agenda if you can make it tonight. And or 7 o'clock on June 17th, City Hall. Thank you.
Yes, and please report back to us. on
Yes,
progress as well.
absolutely. Yep. Thank you.
All right, great. Thank you. Up next, Jeffrey, Makerspace.
Okay, so, you know, in all of our public input, there was a lot of expression of support of wanting our commission to be supportive in any way to the artist community. And basically, as things come up, I'm not sure at this point what we have the authority to do, what we can do, what tools we have in the toolbox. But there is something that comes up that would be of interest to us, and that the Makerspace, which we're all familiar with over on Bartlett, actually not Bartlett Street, but Morning Street, is looking for a new home. And I'm not sure, you know, like I said, what tools we have in the toolbox to be helpful to them. But some members here, are you all three from the Makerspace? We have three people who had, you know, joined us today to tell us more about what the situation is so that we can go through the process of deciding what, if anything, we can do in support.
Yeah, I'll say a couple things. Should I-
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Grab a microphone.
Sit. Speak right into the mic, thanks.
Recording is on.
Yes.
And introduce yourself.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jeffrey Gunn, and I'm the operations coordinator at Port City Makerspace. As Jeffrey mentioned, we're located over on Morning Street. And we're a community organization. We're a 501c3. We've existed since 2012. We've been a 501c3 nonprofit since 2014. We have about 200 members. We're very active in the community. And if it's okay, I'll just summarize our mission statement, because I think it frames our organization pretty well. Port City Makerspace is a welcoming and inclusive community workshop, which provides tools, knowledge, and a collaborative culture to encourage the artist and maker in everyone. We have a number of offerings. We provide workspace for people who, want to pursue their, crafting or art pursuits. We offer classes for people who are looking to get oriented in new skills, but we also offer opportunities for artists in our community to come in and use our space to teach others as well. We offer project storage for people that are working on projects long-term. We have a scholarship program to ensure that people in our community can engage with our services, even if financially that might not otherwise be an option for them. Something else I'd like to mention is that since our time in this community, we've had the opportunity to work with many other organizations, partnering with them or supporting them. Just a couple would be the Seacoast Rep, Portsmouth, New Hampshire 400, the Portsmouth Halloween Parade. We open our doors for folks making costumes and participating in that parade, and have for many, many years. Gather, Lydia's House of Hope. We sponsor the Portsmouth High School robotics team, and many others in the community. So why don't I pause there for just a moment? Does anybody have any questions about the organization, where we are in the community, or anything of that nature? Okay, all right. Peter, do you want to talk a little bit about sort of our current situation? Thank you. Thank you.
Hi. Thank you very much for the opportunity to come and speak with you today.
Could you introduce yourself
I'm
to
sorry.
the folks on Zoom? Thanks.
I don't get anything. Yeah.
That's all right.
Hi, I'm Peter Boyd, and I have been working at the Makerspace for probably about 8 years. My wife found it, and it was a place, I think it was like daddy daycare, so she could continue working at home. But Jeff talked a lot about the things we have, but we have a wood shop, metal shop, bike shop. We have an auto bay. We have an electronics lab. We have a textiles lab. We just built a brand new machine shop we're about to initiate, and we we're starting a pottery shop too. So we're very enthusiastic about those things. We've been in this building for about 12 years. There were three young guys got together and they found this building. I think they started out, it was going to be a commercial enterprise. After a while, they decided they need to go as a nonprofit. They did an incredible job, a lot of work, and it was a lot of sweat equity. And the byproduct of that was that we have an incredibly attractive lease. Then whenever I tell anybody how much we pay, they fall over. They're just shocked by it. It's been our greatest asset and it's our greatest liability. It's coming to an end. It doesn't have to come to an end. We have 2.5 more years on the current segment of the list, but it's very unlikely we don't have the next option. And while the landlord can give us a 5-year extension, given what we pay and the market and everything that's changed, we're very concerned that that won't happen. So really, we've spent a lot of time trying to think of things we can do. We've looked at buildings. It's going to be really tough for us. I think there are probably about 8 or 9 other maker spaces in the state. And I think we're the only one. I think it was started with one of the founders' moms came up with $20K to make this work. The other ones in the state have gotten major donations from cities. They've gotten buildings or major corporations. Their rural development money came in. There's been a lot of things. We've made it without that for all this time, but we are getting to an inflection point. We're not sure exactly what will happen there.
Can I
So-
ask, just because I'm not sure, your current square footage versus what you would need in a new space if you were to move ever?
We have 9,000 square feet.
Okay.
And, as Jeff pointed out, we use it for shop space. We rent some space out to members for things. Yeah. So we
9,000 would be sufficient for future use as well.
well, we don't want to, short sell ourselves,
Yeah.
but that would be nice. Yeah, we've taken, we had the Seacoast rep rented a large square footage from us for quite some time. They had to give it up, and we built out, we're starting to build out more things that align with our mission statement rather than renting them out to people to store their motorcycles and things like that. So, yeah.
I was just going to suggest, we're in the same boat, and I think you all have come and looked at our space. So, but what would be really helpful would be to write something up of what your needs are, not just the square footage, but because isn't that one of our committees, our small groups is looking at spaces? Because there's a number of us that are going to be out there looking for space, and it would be really helpful for we as a group to know what the needs are.
Okay. Yeah, do that.
And is there anything else that you would ask or need from the commission at this time?
Geez, I'm not sure. Jeff, Neil?
Well, I think it's a little difficult for us to know what tools you have available that you could kind of, bring to bear or a problem. I think we're open to really any opportunities to collaborate with a commission like this or the city. We're open to really anything that can help us, get towards a good resolution. I think we're open to things like renting or buying, opportunities to locate space, if there are opportunities to work with financial institutions, or, anything like that. Because I think the good side and the bad side is that we're about, 2+ years out. I think that that's enough time logistically to figure out what we need to do. And there's also a lot of options in front of us. And I think as time goes on, we want to narrow those down and hopefully land on a solution that allows us to stay successful. So I don't mean to not answer your question.
But that's helpful. Okay, yeah, so thank you.
I'm sorry, but while we have 2.5 years left on our lease, if we were to get just a pristine building, it would probably take us 9 months to a year to configure with the electrical and those sorts of things. So it's a
It's not
shorter
2.5,
run.
right? It's not 2.5.
Yeah, we're on the street in 2.5.
Yeah. Karen.
Yeah, and you're a great organization. I've taken a couple of your classes, at Makerspace. It's been great. Quick question. So you mentioned there's 9 other makerspaces across the state, and I'm sure some, magnitude of that across the US. Is there any model that's really jumped out at you within a city or town that you're thinking, that's a great setup in some way, like anything that you can share with us that even
Physical space.
yeah, is there just some way that makerspace is running in that community that you think is kind of like the holy grail that maybe we could, be thinking about for the city of Portsmouth?
You're including the funding, not just the model about the spaces.
Right, not just the physical model, yeah, the financial model that, in talking with some of these other makerspaces that is really working and thriving in that community.
During COVID, we were shut down for a couple of months, but during that time frame, we were working with people out in Nashua, and we were building face shields and stuff like that. We're having a good time doing that. So I think that they got an incredibly large building from the city, and I think they got a sweetheart 5-year deal, and they've just done a great job building out things. They probably have a significantly larger volunteer base than we do. We're working on that, but we could use help with that. I think getting a building is just an incredibly generous thing.
Okay.
Nashua they have a really nice place.
Yeah, that would just be my only suggestion. If there's anything you can pull from many of these other makerspaces that you think could really work well here, just to give us some more ideas and thought, I think that would be helpful.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
And you had mentioned the home occupation.
Yeah.
We bring in instructors, if there are people who you work with who are looking for a place to teach.
That's great.
They can come in and we have a model for working with them. We like doing that. It's really positive.
Thank you.
I just was wondering, have you talked to Great Bay Community College at all?
We've
Yeah.
talked to them about different things, yeah.
Okay, they seem to me like somebody who might be a reasonable partner, but I'm sure there are others in the community. So I think one of the things that this commission is going to be doing is thinking about how we create those connections between organizations so that there's something about power in numbers, being able to collaborate and work towards what everybody needs. So,
right.
Yeah.
So, and I think as we look at where we are, we realize that we want to have as much visibility in the community, both to attract people to use things, but also to get support for our efforts. So continue to look for those opportunities.
So increased visibility for the organization. That immediately jumped out to me as something that's a priority of ours that we can immediately start having an impact on. I'm trying to get to the heart of it. I think you need to prepare for any reality, right? Is staying in your current space feasible in any situation?
I had spoken with a couple of banks, and we had a cash flow that probably would have helped us, secure some money. But as we've looked at buildings, there's a building, it's not on the market yet, but a very nice building right near us. And I know what the appraised value of it was, and they're thinking they're going to get 50% more. So it's just not a ballpark. So, and this happened actually earlier this week. So,
I guess, has your current landlord presented you with a number of what it would take?
Well, so that's interesting. And that was a conversation I had earlier this morning, not with him, but we had been having discussions about getting a lease extension. And, we had come to an agreement on an increase in the rent, the fact that we would take on the taxes, and we were sort of stuck on maintenance. You don't want to see our building, and we're having really good discussions. We wanted to get a 12 to 15 year opportunity where, maybe we had options at different points, but we thought that if we could do that, we could secure some of the state funding and things like that to help us make this work. The landlord came back and said, his current lender would only allow him to write 2-year extensions. So our heart was set on, getting the long-term lease at that point. So, we sort of said, okay, well, see what happens. He has gone back, the landlord has gone back and he's speaking with a bank in town here, and he's looking to get another loan. And that loan is contingent upon him having long-term leases with tenants. I don't know that we would be one of those. We'd like to be. So we're thinking, can we get the 2-year note? He wanted us to take on maintenance, and that's not going to happen. We can't afford to do that without a long-term commitment. So we'll see where we go. But no, the conversation isn't over.
Okay.
But we're here because we're not sure it will happen,
Sure.
which is prudent.
I think, thank you for giving us the update on your situation. I know it's news to me and I'm sure for much of the commission. As someone referenced, we are just in the process of setting up work groups within our commission, one of which will be focused on collaboration and resources. And like we talked about, coming up with a list of spaces that are available and looking at that. So please keep us updated on what your situation is as you continue your conversations with your landlord. If you need support with either trying to stay in your current space or you decide that you are going to find a new space, please keep us updated so we as a commission can be acting and trying to assist you in the best way possible forward. So
What's the best way for us to keep in touch?
I would think, what would you recommend for that, Sean? Can they just keep in
Well,
touch
these-
with
These
Jeffrey?
meetings are all public. I think you can communicate with whoever on the commission. If you want to try to bring something in front of the commission, then they put it on the agenda, things of that nature.
So Neil, you want to just introduce yourself since you're here?
Hi, my name is Neil Rudnick. I'm a member of the Port City Makerspace. Happy to be served. And I'm anxious to see what opportunities come up. But, yeah, getting more visibility for the makerspace so that people who like the story that I hear a lot is how unaware people are of the space, or they knew something like that existed but didn't know how awesome it was. Until they came and visited. And also trying to secure either a long-term lease or a new location inside Portsmouth so that it remains an asset for the community.
Great. Well, thank you, gentlemen, so much. I would say, Jeffrey, since you had reached out to them, if you all have updates for us that you'd like to either send via Jeffrey or come in and talk to us again, we'd welcome that. So in the meantime, we'll keep you in mind as we work through in our work group. So thank you for
Thanks.
coming to speak with us.
We
today.
appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, of course. I want to be mindful of the time and the number of other things we have on the agenda. So I will try to make my next update very brief as we go forward. So I just wanted to give a quick update on where we are with Historic District Commission and solar panels, which is an issue that's been going on since January. The reason I'm bringing it to the commission is that we have a whole section in our cultural plan on preservation and historic preservation and preserving historic buildings and working with historic organizations on preservation. So this all stems from a January motion that was made by a city councilor to remove rooftop solar panels from the Historic District Commission's purview. Since that time in January, the Historic District Commission and the Planning Board have been working together to develop alternative language to that ordinance. In many cases, there were some updates that needed to happen to that language, but really being more thoughtful about exemptions, administrative approvals, all the kind of, I hate to use the word red tape, but that's kind of what it is, around how the HDC works and approvals for solar. The language that they've come up with is really a true compromise. Looking at how other historic districts are structured, we have kind of the least aggressive language now at this point. However, that city councilor who introduced the motion in January, that first reading is happening on June 3rd. I know the planning board rep, who's also a city councilor, will bring forth the proposed alternative language that came out of planning board and HDC working together. So again, city councilor in January said, remove solar from HDC's purview. planning board and HDC said, well, there's a way we can alleviate some of the administrative kind of heavy lifting or all the approvals. We can adjust that. And so they have some amended language. However, that original language is still moving through. An amendment is going to be proposed to that. That's at the June 3rd meeting where there will be, from my understanding, public comment on that. So the position that we have an advocacy arm of Portsmouth Historical Society called Portsmouth Advocates. The position our advocates are taking is that basically sustainability and preservation can coexist. There is a way to do solar, and we support what the planning board and HDC have put together. So that is our recommendation, is that those amendments that planning board and HDC endorse, that we endorse that as well from the advocates' perspective. The hope is that that goes through. Again, as I was saying, that preservation and sustainability can coexist. A lot of times it's difficult with these ordinance. They want very specific language, but a lot of things are case by case basis based on the individual house, what the character features are and things like that. And we do not want to have solar completely removed from HDC's purview. So we think that could be a dangerous step to move in, especially since things are so context sensitive. But again, we do think sustainability and preservation can coexist, and this is the way to do it. And so that's why I'm bringing that to you all. I'm happy to entertain the idea, if folks feel strongly about it, of either having people come and talk to me if you want to make public comment at that meeting. And there will be future readings as well. Or if we feel I would love to get an endorsement of the advocate's position from the commission as well. So to say we support the planning board and HDC's language, their proposed amendments to the ordinance change. And I can get much more technical about it, but I want to give you enough information so you can make an educated decision without going into too much technical detail. And Kate, I know you can speak to this too. Kate's been a real part of this process as well. So are there any questions about what I've said?
Is this just in the historical district of Portsmouth, or is it across the whole?
So the HDC's purview is the historic district. So it's just in that area that this would apply. And again, they came up with a new guidance document that goes by the best practices from National Park Service, from National Renewable Energy Lab. They've kind of taken all the best practices to put into something that still gives the HDC oversight of solar panels while pulling back, compromising on all of the oversight they had before. So what they are proposing is really a true compromise, and what this city councilor has proposed is a full and complete removal of solar panels from their purview.
I'm not clear, excuse me, I'm not clear on what the amendment process is.
That's a
So
question.
So a city councilor just tries to amend the motion that's on the floor. The motion that will be on the floor is to remove purview completely. So, so that's what is coming to the floor. And then a city councilor has to propose an amendment, which I assume is probably coming from the planning board representative who's been through these discussions with the planning board and the HDC. And then the council votes on the amendment, whether or not to accept the amendment. So
basically, we're going to speak in favor of the amendment, and the amendment happens at the first reading?
the amendment will probably happen at first reading. And that's June 3rd. There will not be a public hearing. There's public comment at the top of the meeting.
Okay.
And then there will be a second reading likely at June 17th. And that's where there will be a public hearing on this issue.
So Emma, I was just going to say that just because of my personal knowledge of the work of the advocates and personally trusting the group in terms of their knowledge and expertise, I would support, I would support, again, if people sitting in this room feel as comfortable, I would support us again as a commission, making a statement in support based on the fact that you have said the advocates have looked at it.
Yes.
And it's got their stamped approval.
Yes,
So on
this
that
is my
knowledge-
email from the advocates chair that I highlighted the important parts, so I didn't read you the whole page of it. But
Yeah,
yes,
that's just my personal view is I would make a motion, or may I, can I this time, so we can discuss. I'd like to move that we as a commission support the amendment that will be coming forth regarding planning, the planning board and the HDC. Does that make sense?
Or are we supporting the position of the HDC and the planning board? Because the amendment hasn't been made yet.
I mean, that's essentially what you're doing, I would say.
So so the motion can have the word amendment in it?
You can't, or you can just say to support the
Okay,
position
so
of the
to support-
HDC and the planning board.
Okay.
So I would move that the commission support the recommendations coming forth from the planning board and the HDC regarding solar panels.
Second.
Great. Any discussion?
Just that, so this means you don't have to rewrite anything, right? This is them that's writing something.
The advocates
Right.
writing something? Yes, I will probably,
Do you serve on that body also, or?
not technically, they're a separate committee with their own chair. They're just under our umbrella. But what I will probably do is either co-sign with them, or if it's stronger, I'll see what the chair recommends. I will tweak what they wrote and sign it on behalf of the commission, but I will draft that language. Any other questions before we take a vote on it?
And just for clarity, this gets read during the public comment that the commission supports.
Yes.
Yes.
That would be during
I
public comment.
plan to be at the meeting, so I would read it and or pass around a copy as well.
Right. So this way you can say you're speaking on behalf of the committee and not on behalf of yourself.
Yes,
Mhm.
great. Any other questions before we vote on it? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, everyone. Look at us getting all these actions. I love it.
Can that letter from, that Emma's gonna draft, can it go to all the counselors prior to the meeting?
It can. It can
Yes,
go
I
prior,
can
it
submit
go-
it online in advance, and then we've done that before, and then I can go and read it to them in person as well.
Right.
So I can do both. Absolutely.
That sounds great.
All right, we have one more at
Uh,
least on the agenda. Kate, South
yes.
Meeting House.
Super fast. The city is trying to decide what to do currently with the South Meeting House, which is now empty because PPMTV moved to a new space out at the mall. So we had a work session trying to make some decisions on that. The council advised the city manager that we would like to keep the space, if possible, in the hands of a nonprofit entity, or to that degree, like as much as possible, nonprofit entity, somewhat open to the public too, to have a public space on the first floor, to also try to preserve some of the parking if possible for the neighborhood. That's kind of a complicated issue. But there were some expressions of interest in the space. One was from the VFW, one was from a neighborhood group. What's interesting and the reason it's relevant to this group is the neighborhood group is interested in potentially having some artist space or an arts space in that location. And so they're talking to other organizations in the community about how they could utilize that space. But them serving essentially as a funding source to help make that happen, to bring either a gallery or lessons or something into that space. So I will keep you posted. We basically gave the city manager advice and she will be issuing an RFP for proposals. And so then they'll review proposals when proposals come in.
Is it more than 9,000 square feet?
It is not, unfortunately, it is not that big and it probably would need major electrical work to get
That's
to the
wondering.
place for a place like
Now, my question, doesn't it need major
It's major.
major
Major
work
work.
and the nonprofit would be responsible for doing that?
Yes, it needs about $500,000 in immediate repairs. And then it would need ongoing maintenance of 100,000 or more a year. It's a
Historic building.
1860s
Yeah.
building, 1863. And it's always been a city building, but it's had several different things there. But I think it's really important to note that this was the site of Grace Casey's original gallery space that we think of New Hampshire Art Association now, but that was kind of the original gallery space in the 1970s. So it has a history of art.
Was it children?
And it was the Children's
Yes.
Museum after that. Yeah. So
Yeah, it has a deep nonprofit history.
Mhm.
as well, so-
Subsidize some of that cost. for
Why you
solar
need so much
panels.
maker.
Any update from Karen on the timeline of the RFP coming out?
No, they were in the process, the staff at our last meeting, we asked that question, that they were in the process of also issuing an RFQ for housing. And so that took priority. In fact, the council said, that's more of a priority. You can do this one a little bit later. Yeah. So I would expect soon, but we haven't seen it yet.
Please keep us updated on that. Thank you, Kate. Does anyone else have anything they want to bring to the group? If you do moving forward, please email Linnea or I, and I'm happy to put you on the agenda. I'll try to keep adding these on so we can have quick, shorter updates on them. But if there's anything else that crosses your path or anyone approaches you now that they know you are a commissioner about an issue, please send it to us and we'll add it to the agenda. A few things to wrap up. First of all, in the attachment Sean sent this morning, there's our future meeting list included. We are looking at the third Monday of every month. So just so you have that on your calendar. We have figured out our system for getting out attachments to you earlier. So that will also improve so you have time to review things. What we didn't have time to go over, but I will ask you all to look at individually is we on the leadership team came up with the frameworks based on the DOT exercise we did last month. We divided our kind of top primary goals into 3 groups. So you can see we've come up with group 1 being communication, 2 being collaboration resources, and 3 being DEAI. We went through and gave a point system to the dots, and I've included that in the primary goals in italics at the tops. And to give you an idea of how many points. So in communication, you'll see the existing resources had 34 points versus a community resource, which was 21 points. So to help you when you break out in these groups of prioritizing the work that you're doing. Now, as we've talked about today, this is kind of the ongoing long-term projects to work on. But with collaboration and resources, we also heard today about a number of issues with space that might jump to the top of the priority list. We also put on the list for group 1 communication, thinking about how to publicize the work of our commission and things that the makerspace was talking about, how to increase their visibility, thinking about what are those vehicles we have available to us that we can use to help support other organizations in town. So there are a lot of things on here, and I pulled the numbers under each group, the kind of 1, 2, 3s with the A and the B. Those are all pulled directly from the cultural plan. So that's what I'm looking at to say, these are kind of your marching orders as written by the cultural plan of what each group should be accomplishing. So what I will ask each of you between now and our next meeting is to email, probably email me because I already have the list going. Email me directly with your top 2 choices for groups. And so take a look at this framework, decide which one feels right to you. Send me your top 2 choices. And then and if you could do that by the end of the week, actually, that would be great. So by Friday, please email those to me. Once I have them, I will email Sean the final list and he can send that out and you can all see what work groups you're broken up into. And I would think at the next meeting, we can have a devote time for breakout for the work groups to get together to set their own meeting schedules. Because the hope is that the breakout groups, the work groups will meet independently of this meeting and we'll use this meeting more as a reporting mechanism back. And also if there's any action that those work groups want us to take or there are other burning issues that we have to discuss, because clearly that can take a whole hour. So it will help prioritize our work if the work groups are kind of doing their thing independently and we can use our time together as strategically as possible to keep moving things forward as a group and to be able to address some kind of current and burning issues. Yeah, Karen.
Quick question, maybe a suggestion. I know with the cultural plan, we had 90-minute meetings. Does it make sense that we at least block the time 1 to 2:30? I don't know if that's going to work for everybody, but just so we're not cutting it too tight, especially if we're only meeting once a month. So just throwing that out there. Just, we don't have to take the 90-minute, but at least we have it. And then we're not trying to cut out of here right at 2.
That's a great question. How do folks feel about a 90-minute block?
I was just gonna suggest it, something.
Okay.
Yeah, an hour seems like not enough time.
Yeah, sure.
It seems that it would be good to have the reflective time because
Yes.
even, you run a board meeting, it's nothing but reports. People aren't engaged. So. I'd vote.
Great. Sean, could you tell us if this room is available until 2:30? Yes?
Okay.
Great. Thank you. Yes, let us know.
Sure it is.
Okay. I know no one's here like chomping at the bit, but
I'll check all the dates.
It's,
perfect.
I can. serve the dates,
Okay.
1 to 2:30.
pretty sure
All right.
phone
If you get out,
shows
you get out
some,
early, that's fine too.
Right, right.
Yes,
Yep.
we know we have, we'll try our best to keep it shorter, but as always, that allows us some more time to run over.
Well, it's really very simple. We have a 1 hour meeting and people can linger afterwards for private.
Yeah.
Well, there's that, but also if we have an event like today where we had a lot of
Yeah.
burning hot topics that took a lot more time, then we still have time to do our work together as a
Mhm.
commission. So that allows us some flexibility on that end to vote more time to current issues. So yes, let's plan on 90 minutes then. I'm not hearing any major opposition. If you want to email me with any opposition you may have that you don't feel like voicing, let me know, or if you know that absolutely will not work for your schedule. You have all the dates coming up through the end of the year, so you can also let us know if there are any times you can't make the full 90 minutes. And Sean, we'll just wait for Sean to confirm that on those dates, the room is available. But yeah, please block off moving forward the 90 minutes for this meeting.
Emma, I was just gonna say to you and Linnea,
Yeah.
Vice Chair, everybody, if you guys determine that burning issue should come actually after some of these really important things that we're talking about, so that the time doesn't get eaten up by accident, just make that call. Just set the agenda accordingly.
Yeah, I think we'll see how it goes. Certainly for this one where we're diving right into it. I see how it takes up a lot of space because we have to get up to speed on a lot of issues. I think we'll try to keep it stacked at the front, but if we have 90 minutes to play with, that will give us some more flexibility. But if we find that every meeting we're spending half an hour, 45 minutes on burning issues, we might flip flop that as well. But I figure, we're still kind of finding our sea legs as a commission, what we can do, what motions we feel comfortable taking. And also inviting outside groups to come in and talk to us about what their needs are. I think, again, since this is a brand new commission, we're figuring all that out, which is why I keep looking to Sean and Kate being like, how are we doing this? Can we do this? And I really want there to be that. I want people to feel like we are a commission that is approachable and that will listen to their issues and will take action on issues that are coming up across our community.
It was great having them here. I think,
Yeah.
just think
Yeah.
it's, yeah, so thank
Right.
you. Thanks, Jeffrey.
Eventually that might even be part of the agenda.
Yeah.
The first 10 minutes is a nonprofit coming and sharing their mission
Yeah, yeah.
and introducing themselves,
Yeah.
kind of as.
And
an
their
artist.
burning needs. Yeah.
Or- Yeah, you could, yeah, or an individual artist.
Yep. That's a
One
great
thing that
idea.
You want to think about, when you speak to the city council, you get 3 minutes.
Yes.
And maybe that's something we should consider. I mean, I know I've managed to say quite a
Mhm.
bit in 3 minutes. I've gone over, but
Mhm.
but no, I think maybe we want to, if not 3 minutes, 5 minutes, but pick
Yeah.
a number and just have a hard, so we can kind of keep things a little bit more under control.
Mhm.
I agree with you. And I think if we, either on burning issues, if we invite outside people, or if we decide to have groups come in and individuals to present, we can give them that time limit in advance so that we are managing the expectation up
Mhm.
front for sure.
I think that might help corral this a little bit.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
It's a good point.
Yeah, and any other suggestions or input on agenda or the meeting format, let us know. We're figuring it all out along. So thanks for your flexibility and patience. Any other questions, issues, anything before we break? All right,
Motion to adjourn if we need
love
it.
it. Yep,
I second.
great. All in favor? Great.
Aye.
Thank you all.
Hi, Catherine.
All right.
Bye, guys.
Should we leave these here?
Yes.
Yes, please.
Yes.
I will collect those. Please do not take them.
Does- He doesn't want us.
I love
to
it.
have them.
Right. You're great.
Yeah.
You're great.